I thought it very interesting when you first talked about a foreign king. Moses and the people left Egypt that had a foreign king. They had built two cities, Avaris and Ramses, where he kept his horses and his chariots. So I believe it is referring back to that in a historical sense. It's a picture of where they came from. Don't go back.
Yeah, that's a good point, Les. He tells them multiple times, don't go back to Egypt, don't go back to Egypt. And I think that's a warning for us, too, to not go back to Egypt, because it's a picture of the world. Egypt had it going on. They were very, very wealthy, but they were also very, very pagan, very evil. Go ahead.
Last night, I was en route to Hilliard to a home group to read the Torah portion and study it and midrash it.
Mm-hmm.
And it came to me on the way to that meeting. I was taking someone with me, and they mentioned something that we had to believe for, and it dawned on me about the days that we're facing, because I could see the parallel when Rome went there and then left and come back. Mm-hmm. We're going to be facing times the Messiah said are unlike any that's ever been. Mm-hmm. And it's going to be a serious time, and it's going to be, if we're not walking, it's going to be a scary time.
Yeah.
But it came to me last night. We worry about my little finger being sore. Mm-hmm. We get worried and stumble over that. But we serve this Messiah. The other side of what we're taking here, or what you've taught today, is that we serve a Messiah who is above all, beyond all.
Yep.
I can't comprehend his depth, his height, and I worry about my little finger.
Yeah. And I think that's where Israel was too.
And that's where we have got to turn to him, so that Deuteronomy 11:8 says that if I obey his commands, I will be able to enter the land.
Mm-hmm. So what's different between the challenge that he put before them? But the other thing too is we think that he's doing it to us or helping us because of our righteousness, which is the same challenge he's putting before Israel. And he's like, it's not because. So when we overcome them, it's not going to be us overcoming anything.
It's turning to him.
It's because of the evil that's in the land, just like it was here, just in the Torah portion
And our
today.
motivation will be, or our facilitation will be, when we turn to him.
It should simply be following
him.
Keeping our eyes on him, and that's the only way you're going to make it through that.
Amen.
If you sit down and over challenge and try to tactically do this,
these are days that are not going to be for fear.
We're putting it in our own hands if we do that. Just know that we do what we can do. And he says, it's interesting that the Psalm says that the Yahweh guides our steps.
Amen.
What does that imply? You're not sitting on your butt, to put it bluntly. Okay? So once we start, we have to be willing to, hear him and follow him. Up front, you got one? Right here. Wayne was sharing some stuff that was on the news. I mean, just how crazy the world has gotten without going into details. I went home and I looked up some of it and I was like, oh my goodness, are these people just nuts? I mean, it's like Washington just gone crazy. Go ahead.
So I was just going to touch base with what Richard said.
Uh-huh.
Kind of the same thing had been on my mind. Me and Norma, I get when we go home tonight, we working on Psalms 20 and a song, and it says, some trust in horses and some trust in chariots. And that's been on my mind for quite a while. And in today's Torah portion, and when Richard was talking about what we worry about,
Right.
I just can't get it out of my mind. He says, when you go and you see an army and they have more horses
Mm-hmm.
and they have more chariots, don't fear, because, that's, not
Faster rockets.
Right.
We got hypersonic
And-
missiles.
And real quick, I told Norma a story. I've never owned a gun, and I had a situation back 20 years ago when I went to my dad and said, I need a gun for about a week. So I got the gun, and next night, this guy tries to bust in my house. And he's beating the door down, beating the door. I don't know who the guy is. It just is and he had about one more kick, and the door was going to come down, and I was standing there with that gun I had borrowed. And anyway, he jumps up on my house, and my house lights up, a helicopter, and the police are everywhere, and they end up getting the guy. Next morning, I took the gun back to my dad. I said, you know, when I didn't have this, I never needed it.
Yeah, yeah, interesting.
I went and got it from you, and 2 days later, I got a guy trying to bust my.
That is
So-
interesting.
So
Yeah.
ever since then, I've not put my trust, in horses and in chariots.
That's really interesting. Yeah, yeah. There's a time when it's not going to help. There's a time when it's going to be more problems than anything else. Right here in the front, Wayne. Yeah. I think the biggest thing, and we've talked about this before, the biggest thing we need to get to is where we can hear God's Spirit and know that it's His Spirit. Okay? And the way and we're going to talk about that in Halakat Chaim. It's one of the important teachings because we hear three different things and they all three sound the same. One of them is us, one of them is the enemy, and one of them is God. And they all sound like you. But they don't say the same thing. It's a totally different message. And it was interesting, and we just took a child protection class, everybody that's in our kids program and in the Trail Life. And that's basically what they taught, is like, it's not going to be the way the person looks. It's not going to be what they say. It's not going to be their criminal background check. We miss 95% of them. They just admit it right up front. It's like, so it's going to be, look at what they're doing, And so part of that challenge to me is look at what we're doing. If we want to get where we can recognize, identify Messiah, His voice speaking to us, are we doing things that will prevent that? Are we doing things that will open the door for the enemy to operate in our lives so we'll hear Him? And he's an imposter. He's always, pretending to be God. Anyway, go ahead, Wayne. Sorry.
I was just sitting here while you're talking. I just got so self-conscious, and I was thinking to myself, I'm only holding this because he's talking. Accusation just coming right into my,
Yeah,
talking about
yeah,
thoughts.
yeah.
I'm like, take that captive. But anyway, got up this morning and I was reading the Torah portion and I was doing my study. And the one thing that I gleaned is that those instructions, this portion about starting with the judges to the sanctuary cities, to the spilling of innocent blood, to the captives, to everything God says in there, we are not.
It's true.
Right now,
Our
country, this world, every single standard that He set,
we're not doing
we're not keeping any of it to any degree. And so that judgment can't be far away.
I saw the same thing. That's why I said it's like we're in a different, what we call, we think we're more civilized, hopefully we are, but still, if we lay out what was the judgments to them and what we're doing today, it's all there. You're right.
Our whole system is based on bribes. The judges and the leaders are based on how much money they get and raise. The spilling of innocent blood.
And it's not just this country either.
I know,
it's the whole world.
It's the whole world. So I guess my biggest takeaway from this whole portion of studying is that part about the judging. It's that if we are in the last days, the judgment should start right here. I need to judge me and my house so that later on
You won't
I'm
be-
not judged
right,
to that same standard, because that standard's going to be,
Right,
God's going to maintain that standard,
for sure. He doesn't change.
you know, and so,
He's never lowered the bar. The only thing he's done is just raised it.
yeah, so,
Amen. Thank you, Wayne. Yeah, he just gives us more information to allow us to know him better, to, to walk closer and to walk in more blessings, but he never lowers the bar. I just share 1 second last. I got a text from somebody that doesn't live around here, and there are some borderline Torah people out there, and he said something like, will you forgive me? I'm going to Maine for 10 days or something. And I'm like, I'm not the one that you need to worry about forgiving you. And I knew there was more to it. And he said, well, God will forgive me. I'm going to be there for 5 days. And I don't even have to ask what he's like, I'm going to eat like crazy. What do you eat in Maine? I'm like, no comment. I'm trying to do the Torah course, I'm not getting sucked into this sideline, but where do we get the idea? And just to be honest, not picking on anybody's life's chaos. It could not be described with another word besides it's just total chaos. It's chaos as anybody I even know. Total chaos. And he wonders why. He really does,